Hey everybody, it's Matt, and it's been a while since I made a video. I wrapped up the Beach Boys series of reviews here about a month ago, 3 weeks ago, and I will be doing Brian Wilson solo and Dennis solo, at least, maybe Carl, but I'll get to that in the by and by. So what I thought I'd do today instead is continue. I had started, it's been a while, but I started reviewing each of the Beatles solo albums in order of release, just like I'd done with the Beach Boys and the Kinks before that. And it started with Paul, and then I'll later move on to John, George, and Ringo. But last one I did was Band on the Run. Like I said, I don't know, that's been quite a while, months ago. But having done Band on the Run, the next one in order is, of course, Venus and Mars. So we will move on to this one. This came out in May 27th of 1975. It was a success for Paul. It was number one in the US and in the UK. Of course, there's the cover that we all know, Venus and Mars, I guess being the two planets on either side of the Earth. Maybe the reason he chose that title, I'm not sure. Back cover, you've got lyrics, and inside cover, you've got the band somewhere out in the desert or a beach or something, I suppose, trying to look like they're on Mars or Venus. And I always liked, if you can see it there, the little Venus and Mars planets in the sand there. Anyway, so yeah, this was a successful album. Paul had, after the Beatles, his first several solo albums had done well sales-wise, but not so much critically wise, which I'm sure was a thorn in his side because he was used to having accolades piled upon him all through his Beatle years. And finally, he released Band on the Run, which turned out to be both a critical and a fan favorite, and also a number one album. And followed it up with this. I remember I got this album and I got Band on the Run not when they came out. I remember getting the 45 for Band on the Run back in '73, but I actually got that album and this album probably around '77, as I remember. So, but I was familiar with some of the songs on this, and of course, Band on the Run. Generally speaking, Band on the Run is especially by, I guess, casual Beatle fans or non-Beatle fans, considered to be Paul's peak solo-wise, and his big album, his Sergeant Pepper, if you will. I like the album. I like it quite a bit, actually, but I do have some reservations about it, and it wouldn't be my pick for his best solo album. This wouldn't either, but it's up there, and I actually, then and now, always like this a little bit more than Band on the Run. Not to say that I don't like Band on the Run, but this one I always kind of had a soft spot and liked it a little bit more. And if I was to rate his solo albums, this would be up there in the top 10 at least. I don't know about top 5, but maybe. But I always liked this album, and so what else can we say? He recorded some of this in England, but I think the majority of it was in New Orleans, and Jeff Britton was the drummer originally, and he couldn't get along with, I think it was Henry McCullough, and so he left the group or got kicked out of the group or whatever happened, and they replaced him with Joe English, who plays drums on most of this album. And I think Jeff Britton's on 2 or 3 tracks, but there you go. So let's just get into the songs, I guess. And I think I actually have done a review on this somewhere back there, I believe. But I want to just go with this project, just go in order of all the releases. So I guess I'm re-reviewing it, and probably should have looked back at my old review from a couple of years ago or whenever that was to see maybe I'm saying something totally different now than I did then. But anyway, whatever. Let's get on into it. First song is actually kind of a two songs in one. You get Venus and Mars, and you get Rock Show, which Venus and Mars segues directly into Rock Show. Venus and Mars is one of my favorite openers. He's got several albums that have really great openers, and this is definitely up there. I really love Venus and Mars, the sort of a laid back, folksy acoustic guitar, Paul singing in great voice, which he sings in great voice throughout this whole album. No surprise there. But I love the song, and it's short. It's I don't know how long it is, like maybe a minute or so, and then it goes into rock show. It's one of those really works well because you wish it, or I wish it would go on a little longer. But if it went on a little longer, it might be a little too much. So Paul sort of instinctively, I guess, knew just the right length to make it where you enjoy it, but it leaves you wanting more when it's over. But so it opens up, and you're expecting this sort of from that song, you're expecting this sort of folksy, uh, bucolic, laid back album, and then it goes into rock show, which is a big rock and roll song, which is great the way that works. So let me see. Love that descending bass line, that do 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 do, and I didn't do that right, but um, I like the "We'll Be There." Love the piano conclusion at the end of Rock Show. Just both these songs together, I'm just going to rate them together because it's kind of like Sergeant Pepper with a little help from my friends in a way. And I'd give them a 10 for the combination or for both songs. This is one of those rare. I'm kind of like Joe, Mean Mr. Mayo, in my opinion of live albums. I don't, not like I can't stand them, but I'm not a huge fan of live albums, generally speaking. I usually just like the studio version over listening to a live album, with a few exceptions. There's a Sam Cooke at the Harlem Square Club, which is great, one of my favorite live albums. Beatles at the Hollywood Bowl and the Kinks live album, occasionally I'll listen to, or Get Your Yayas Out, but more or less I'm not a big fan of live albums. But a couple albums up from this, we get Wings Over America. We'll get to that when we get to that point. And this is the opening song on Wings Over America. And this is one of the rare times when I might actually like the live version of these two songs versus the studio version on this album. But it's a close call because I really love the studio on this. It's just the live version is a little more energetic and pumped up, and the bass line that I love so much. But they're both great, and this one gets a 10 for me. So then we go to song number, well, really song number 3, I guess, which is Love in Song, which from the first few seconds, it kind of kills the momentum because you're pumped up on this great rock and roll song, Rock Show, and then you go into this sort of majestic, low-key ballad. But, and maybe Love in Song would have benefited from being placed somewhere else on the album. Maybe it would have been good if he would have put another one of the songs as kind of high energy rock and roll after Rock Show and put that elsewhere. But he didn't, and shouldn't hold that against the song because it's really good. It's a beautiful song. Kind of sounds like something that's more fitting to Band on the Run maybe than Venus and Mars. But again, it doesn't really matter because it's just a low key. It's kind of the same time a low key song, but also kind of a sweeping grand ballad type song. Really beautiful song. I give that a 9. Really like that one. So side one's looking really good so far. Now we get to the fourth song. You gave me the answer. Great piano in this song. I really like it. This is what a lot of people accuse Paul of is granny music, which, you know, things like When I'm 64 and Honey Pie and so forth. This is another one of those. 20s sounding song. I kind of have a soft spot for a lot of Paul's granny music, though. Things like Martha, My Dear and all. And this one's no exception. I really like this song. Like the old 20s music. This kind of reminds me of my parents and stuff that they listen to and so forth. And so I think it's a good song. A lot of people might find it kind of cornball and old-fashioned, but I like it. I'm going to give it a 8. Then we go to the fifth song, Magneto and Titanium Man. Love the drums in here. It sounds like he's just pounding on like a wash tub or something at some points. I really like that. I like the bit vocals in it. Just great vocals. Another good high energy rock and roll song. I'm going to give that a 9. Then We wind up side one with the sixth song, Letting Go. Kind of a Lennon sounding guitar in this, I like, which also in uh, Band on the Run, they had the Let Me Roll It, which was kind of thought to be Paul trying to do a Lennon impersonation or a tribute, I guess. And this kind of sounds the same to me. It's a kind of guitar you hear on a lot of Lennon solo work. Kind of a soul music background sounding to it too. Just a really good song. A lot of people call this the highlight of the album. I couldn't argue with them because I like it too. I'm going to give that a 10. We flip over to side two. We get the Venus and Mars reprise, which a lot of people like the opener, the first original Venus and Mars on side one more than this. I like them both about the same. I really like it sounds really 70s and kind of music nobody makes anymore. The spaceship, I guess, sounds and the love the way he says Z instead of Z. English people do that, and I always like that for some reason. But I really like that. It's pretty short and sweet, but I like it. I'm going to give it a 10. All right, we get to the second song on side two, Spirits of Ancient Egypt. Danny Lane sings this, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, this is probably the second time he's sang on a Wings album. He was on the flip side of what, Live and Let Die with I Lie Around, wasn't that Danny? Um, Paul had this idea that Wings was an actual band, and from his perspective, I can't really blame him because, toward the end of the Beatles, he probably, if John and George hadn't have wanted out, he probably would have been happy to keep the Beatles going. He wanted as long as they would have, let him toe the line like he had wanted to do the last 2 or 3 years of the band. And he wanted to tour and all that, and he liked that group dynamic, which is fine and understandable. But the thing is, on this one through, I guess, really Back to the Egg, less so on Back to the Egg, but through Back to the Egg, he sort of had this Wings as a band mentality and let some of the other guys in the band uh, write a song or sing a song, which is his prerogative. But as far as fans, we're here for Paul McCartney, and so I never cared for this very much because, I, sure, Danny Lane's a nice guy and Henry McCullough and so forth, but if I'm not really interested in Danny Lane music, not trying to be rude there. It's just, it is what it is. You buy a Bruce Springsteen album, you want to hear Bruce Springsteen. You don't want to hear, uh, I don't know, Max Weinberg come up to the mic and start singing a couple of songs or whatever. But Spirits is, I believe this is written by Paul, but Danny sings it. It's a good song though. I like it. It's sort of a minor song. First few times you hear it, sounds like a throwaway, but it grows on you over time. I like the hung on the telly, hung on the telly, hung on the telly phone line. Another thing, this is suffers. This is where Paul could have used John on throughout his solo career because he does get lazy in the lyrics department, and you do get you get some really good songs from him, but you also get quite a few just sort of silly, inane lyrics that you wish, like, Paul, can you have taken a couple hours more to work on the lyrics and come up with something better? So you get that throughout this album, and the ones that follow, unfortunately. But it's one of those things where you just have to, if you're a Beatle fan and a solo Beatle fan, it's just one of those things. Great music, but silly lyrics at times, and you just have to, live with it, I guess. And if you can't, then you go find something else to listen to, I suppose. Anyway, Spirits is it's a pretty good song. I'm going to give it a 7.75. It's one of those that, like I said, first few times you hear it, it doesn't sound like much, but it does sort of grow on you in time. So now we move on to song number 3, side 2, which is Medicine Jar, written by Jimmy McCullough. And I think he's the one that ended up dying of a drug overdose, unfortunately, a few years later. But yeah, it's like I said, this is okay. I don't buy these albums for Jimmy McCullough music. I buy them for Paul McCartney. And it's sort of a generic 70s rock song. It's not a not a bad song. There's really not much to it. I wish I'm going to give it a six. When I'm playing the album, it comes on. I don't mind listening to it, but I never, not anything I'm ever going to seek out or really look forward to. I wish Paul would have not included that and included something like this is the archive edition with some extra songs, something like My Carnival or I'm not sure when Junior's Farm and Sally G was released. I think it was before this came out. I'm almost positive. But maybe one of those 45s could have been on here in its place. But Medicine Jar, it's just there and it's okay. But it's probably the weakest of the album. We go to Call Me Back Again, back to Paul. Really nice, sort of a bluesy, slightly bluesy ballad, and with a bit of a soul music feel to it. Great vocals as usual. Good song. I'm going to give it a 7.75. It's pretty strong song. I like it. We'll get to song number 5. This is the hit, the number 1 single off the album that everyone knows. Listen to What the Man Said. Um, it's just a good song. I like it all right. It's with the exception of Joe's big favorite, My Love, which I really can't stand. This is probably one of the least of McCartney's big '70s hits in my book. It's maybe it's that sort of smooth jazz saxophone that runs through the songs, kind of a yacht rock sounding song in a way, that sort of mellow music. I do like the fade out quite a bit. I do like the song. It's just it's not bad. It just never did it for me. So I'm going to give that one a 6. I know a lot of other people probably going to rate that quite a bit higher, and it's probably a favorite for a lot of people. I get that. I'm just saying, for me personally, I always just thought it was okay compared to Junior's Farm and Jet and Band on the Run and a lot of his other big '70s hits. Um, though I do like it better than a couple of things that are coming up, and we'll get to that in the next album. Yeah, so number 6 song is Treat Her Gently and Lonely Old People, which kind of 2 songs in one. I really like that. This is a great McCartney ballad. It's just a beautiful song that just soars vocally and musically. I'm going to give it a 9. When you come to a good McCartney ballad, I'll take this over My Love any day of the week. This is the way to do it, not that schlocky Barry Manilow uh, My Love stuff. That anyway. And we end with Crossroads, which is not a McCartney song. It's I don't remember who wrote it. Should have looked that up. But it was the theme song to a TV show in England. It's a soap opera called Crossroads, I suppose. I've never seen or heard of it. Not much to it. It's only a minute long. It's instrumental, but it's nice, and it's a nice little tag in to conclude the album. So not much to it. It's pleasant. I'll give it a 6. Overall on this album, I'm going to go 9. I really like this one, and I liked it. I remember hearing songs, Rock Show, and of course listen to What the Man Said, and Letting Go back in '75 when I was about 12 when it came out, and then I got the album. I think I was in 7th grade a couple of years later, and I really liked it then. And if anything, it's sort of grown. My appreciation's grown for it. So that's Venus and Mars. That's a good one, and we'll be back with more McCartney. Take care.